On this edition of Early Look, I'm going to be previewing the August 3rd bantamweight main event as part of UFC Abu Dhabi between Cory Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov. And if you never watched the show before, I'm going to go through a bunch of different stats, a bunch of different intangibles, and give you my prediction at the end. Some of this stuff may have relevance to you. It may not. I'll let you decide that at the end. I would love to hear your prediction in the comments for this fight. This is one of the most anticipated fights for me because I think it's going to answer a lot of questions about both fighters after this fight takes place. Let's do a quick tail of the tape between these two. Right now you can see Cory Sandhagen 17-4, Umar 17-0, 32-28, 5'11 to 5'8, 70 to 69. So you can see Sandhagen a little bit taller, has a slight reach advantage in this fight, but Umar is younger in this spot. Also, Umar undefeated. Let's start first with the Sandman, Cory Sandhagen, and go over some of his stats and talk about him a little bit. So like I mentioned there, 17-4 for Cory Sandhagen. He is 32 years old, 5'11 with a 70-inch reach. So he'll have a 3-inch height and 1-inch reach advantage in this fight. He's got 7 knockouts, 3 submissions, and 7 decisions. He's currently ranked number 2 in the bantamweight division. Trains now out of what's being called, I just checked this before I hopped on here, Forge Fight Club. Used to be Elevation Fight Team. That team is kind of split up a little bit, but Forge Fight Club is the latest one. But the big thing, obviously, for this fight is that he's been working with Trevor Whitman, the same coach who has worked with Rose Namajunas, Justin Gaethje, and so many other fighters, Kamaru Usman. So we'll see if that pays off in this fight. But one little note, obviously, going into this one, Sandhagen is a BJJ brown belt. He's got fight of the night 2 times against Yuri Alcantara and Piotr Jan. He's got performance of the night 2 times against Marlon Moraes and Frankie Edgar. Sandhagen made his amateur debut way back in September of 2012, made his MMA debut in May of 2015, and then made his UFC debut in January of 2018. He is 10-3. He's got 6 finishes. Some notable wins include John Lineker, Rafael Sunsao, Marlon Moraes, Frankie Edgar, Song Yadong, Chito Vera, and most recently Rob Font. Some losses include Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw, and Piotr Jan. He's fought in different weight classes. He's fought 13 times at bantamweight. This will be his 14th bantamweight fight, but he's also fought 8 times at featherweight. Sandhagen hasn't had any major injuries that have withdrew him from fights. Part of the reason he's been off for so long for this fight was because of, number one, the location. I think they've always wanted to do this fight in the Middle East. Number 2 is Sandhagen was dealing with some injuries like we saw in the fight with Rob Font. A lot of people criticize the Font performance, but also forget that Sandhagen was injured in that fight. So while he didn't maybe look his best, it was, partially due to an injury as well. Sandhagen's had a few layoffs in his career. Actually, his last couple fights, he's been coming in off some layoffs. So if you look at the layoff from Song Yadong to Marlon Chito Vera, there was a 322-day layoff. Going from Rob Font to this fight, there's going to be a 364-day layoff. And if my math is correct here, this is the longest layoff in Cory Sandhagen's career. So that is one thing to consider in this fight, is that Sandhagen has not fought in a while. Sandhagen's been in a couple close fights. I mentioned the Lineker win. That was way back a couple of years ago. It's worth mentioning just because a lot of people felt like Sandhagen didn't win that fight, even though he did get the split decision nod there. That was back in April of 2019. 7 media members scored the fight for Sandhagen. 10 scored it for Lineker per MMADecisions.com. This is the website I always talk about on the show where media can put their scores in. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it is something I like mentioning. But then on the flip side, the TJ Dillashaw fight back in July of 2021, that was at UFC on ESPN 27. 6 media members scored the fight for TJ Dillashaw. 17 scored it for Sandhagen. So his record's probably still the same, just because, again, Lineker probably should have gone Lineker's way. Dillashaw should have gone Sandhagen's way. One thing that is sort of one thing I did want to point out. Now, as far as Sandhagen's stats, they're very impressive here. If you look at Sandhagen, you can see significant strikes landed per minute, 5.33. His striking accuracy is at 44%. His striking defense is at 58%. That's a key thing here. Sandhagen, if you look at a lot of his fights, not taking a lot of damage. Even in his losses, you don't see Sandhagen have that really busted up face. He is very good, very cerebral in there when it comes to his defense. His takedown average is 1.36. His takedown accuracy is at 33%, so not very good, but his takedown defense is at 64%. We'll see if that pays off in this fight. The Nurmagomedov is obviously known for the wrestling and grappling. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about Cory Sandhagen. A bit of context I forgot to mention. These two were supposed to fight August of last year, 2023. That's the fight where Rob Font stepped in and took the fight. So Umar having to withdraw due to injury. We'll talk about him right now. Let's get into Umar right now and talk about his career. So obviously a lot of hype behind him. A lot of people calling him future champion. It's understandable in the sense that he's 17-0 and obviously the cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov. So he is currently ranked number 10 at bantamweight. He is 16-0. He's got 2 knockouts, 7 submissions, and 7 decisions. Let me just double check. Sorry, 8 decisions, not 7. Have to update that. He is 28 years old. And he is 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. So he's 9 years younger, has a 1-inch height and 2-inch reach advantage in this fight. Won Combat Sambo Championship gold in 2015. He's the older brother of Bellator champion Usman Nurmagomedov. Gotta make sure I say that right. I mentioned he's the cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and he's also trains out of Eagles MMA and AKA. He's got Performance of the Night 2 times against Sergey Morozov and Raoni Barcelos. Umar made his amateur debut way back in May of 2016, made his MMA debut in December of 2016. By that point, Cory Sandhagen already had 5 pro fights and made his UFC debut in January of 2021. Cory had 7 UFC fights at that time. So just again, mentioning that, there's a bit of an age gap. Cory's been in the UFC a little bit longer. Got to mention those things as well. The only notable win that Umar's had outside of Raoni Barcelos, who I believe was ranked at the time. Actually, I know Raoni Barcelos was in the rankings, but I don't think when he beat him, he was in the rankings. But let's just say anyways, for argument's sake, that he has had that ranked win. That's sort of the only notable opponent he's beat. Nate Maness, not in the UFC anymore. Brian Kelleher, I should say, at the time of recording this, about to get released from the UFC. Sergey Morozov, not in the UFC. So that's, one thing to keep in mind. And then his last opponent, Bezat, was a newcomer. Tough situation, right? Fighting a newcomer, didn't have a lot to gain from that fight. So the only notable win he's had is Barcelos. The other one I'll mention quickly, and this was outside the UFC, was Sadyukub Kakrakhmanov, someone that I think a lot of people feel like shouldn't have been cut from the UFC. Very, very good bantamweight fighter. That was a couple years ago in PFL, but still wanted to mention that because that was a good win a couple years back. So did want to mention that. And obviously Umar has no notable losses. Umar's had a few injuries and missed time as well. Remember, he was supposed to fight Nathaniel Wood a few years ago. That was due to his, I believe that was Khabib's father passing away, so obviously wasn't going to be training for that fight. Was supposed to fight Sergey Morozov, had an illness in that one. Supposed to fight Jack Shore a couple years back, withdraw that undisclosed. And then the Sandhagen one, I believe, was an injury. They just withdrew, but I'm pretty sure it was injury related as well. Umar's just had a few layoffs in his short UFC career, going from Morozov to Kelleher. There was a 409-day layoff in that one. And then going from Nate Maness to Barcelos, there was a 203-day layoff. He obviously fought earlier this year, so he is the more active fighter between the two, at least recently, because obviously Umar fought back in March, whereas Sandhagen has not fought since this time last year, basically. Or I guess when they step in the cage, it'll be about a year since that took place. Like I mentioned earlier, Sandhagen has not fought in 364 days. So one thing to keep in mind when you're sort of looking at this fight. Umar's never had any close fights. They've all been pretty decisive, so don't have to worry about any decisions. And his stats are very impressive. Let's go have a look at those. Umar Nurmagomedov, significant strikes landed per minute, 4.75. His striking accuracy is at 69%. His striking defense is at 76%. So these numbers are all higher than Cory's, except for the significant strikes landed. And then if you look at his takedown average, look at that, 4.51, way higher than Sandhagen. So we'll see if he can get some here. His takedown accuracy is at 56%. His takedown defense is at 100%. I doubt Cory's going to go for any takedowns here, but we'll see what happens. Let's look at the odds right now. We have a bunch of books that have this line already, and you can see there, Sandhagen close to a 2-1 underdog. A lot of people high on Umar in this fight, so anyone saying Umar's not getting any respect, that's completely wrong. You can see right here, clear as day on the odds, Umar minus 230 on most books, and you can see it's been pretty consistent that way. If anything, there is some money coming in on Sandhagen. Umar opening at almost a 3-1 favorite to begin. So again, I understand the odds here. Umar undefeated. There's a lot of potential. Like I said, people thinking he's a future champion. And then if you look here at the Tapology vote, and again, anyone can do this, so it's not, no one's putting any money on this fight, but you can see the odds are much closer here. Nurmagomedov at 51%, Cory Sandhagen at 49%. This is a tough one, guys. This is honestly a 50-50 fight in my books, for the simple fact that it's a classic case of we have this highly ranked fighter in Cory Sandhagen fighting a newcomer with a lot of potential, but doesn't have the wins to necessarily give us the confidence that he can beat Sandhagen. I'm sure for a lot of people, they do feel like he can beat Cory Sandhagen here, but I'm not one of those people. I'm going to be picking Cory Sandhagen here, and here is why. It's got nothing to do with where Umar's from or anything like that. If you look at how I break down fights, and I'll leave a link in the description because I had to make a video explaining to people how I go about breaking down fights, but this kind of lines up with how I normally pick fights like this. Sandhagen has proven more. We have actual concrete data of Sandhagen performing well at a very high level. With Umar, he's looked great against the competition he's faced, but I think going from Raoni Barcelos to Cory Sandhagen is a huge jump up. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples. I don't think Umar applies to this, but it's similar line of thinking. we had Abu Smagomedov fight Sean Strickland. We had Ikram Alexskarov fighting Robert Whittaker. Now, obviously, Ikram was a short notice fight. We had Abus, obviously. I don't think it was too short notice when he fought Strickland. I think Umar's better than both those guys I just mentioned. But my thing is, we've seen time and time again when fighters get that step up in competition, and it doesn't go according to plan. Another example, I'm just trying to think right now. I mean, there's probably other examples that doesn't involve Muslim or Dagestani fighters, but Yair Rodriguez fighting Frankie Edgar a few years back. There's another one where Yair was on a good win streak, was maybe not fighting the best opposition, fights Frankie Edgar and gets absolutely destroyed. Now, I don't think that's going to happen here. Like the Tapology vote indicates, this is going to be a very close fight, and I could see it going either way. But my pick here is going to be Cory Sandhagen by decision, and here's sort of my logic for this. So if you look at Sandhagen, 41% of his wins are by decision, 41 are by knockout. I don't think he'll knock out Umar. I think Umar's got good enough striking defense. We saw the stats there. I don't think that Sandhagen will be able to put him away, but Cory winning a decision seems the most likely here. Umar Nurmagomedov has never fought in a 5-round fight before. That's one of the other reasons why I like Sandhagen here. If you watch Umar's last fight, and I know there was some talk of some health issues going in there, and you guys feel free to link me to an article where Umar mentions his health issue in the Bekzat fight, where he had some issues going in. I wasn't able to find anything ahead of this, but I want you guys to watch this post-fight interview with Daniel Cormier. This was Umar's last fight, and this was the 3-round fight. Now, I know he felt like he was going to take out Bekzat early in that matchup, but listen to him after this fight in just a 3-round fight. He's out of breath in this spot here. Listen up.
How hurt were you? Take a look at this here. You got a great takedown to finish it. But
how
hurt were you when he landed that right hand?
Now I understand. I didn't see this punch. I want to be careful.
Okay, I'm not a doctor, but guys, he sounded very much out of breath there. And that was just a 3-round fight. If he's not able to put away Cory Sandhagen early, and this fight goes into the championship rounds, you have to favor Sandhagen. We've seen Sandhagen have a number of 5-round fights in his career. We know he can go the distance, not to mention this is a guy who's training in Denver at elevation. So again, I think if you're basing Umar winning on him getting an early finish, I don't think Sandhagen's the guy to do it. Now look, has Sandhagen been finished before? Yes, he has. Aljamain Sterling finished him in the first round. I see a lot of people referencing that fight. But look at the date of this fight, June of 2020. We're almost 4 years, we're 4 years removed from that matchup, guys. Fighters can get better. And I think we have seen Sandhagen level up since that fight, as witnessed by the finishes over Marlon Moraes, Frankie Edgar. Even these fights with Jan and Dillashaw, they were close. Like the fight he lost to Petr Yan, that was a short notice fight for both guys. And Sandhagen actually looked good. Jan was just a step ahead. That's not a bad loss to have on the resume. It's not like Jan completely outclassed him and you're like, man, Sandhagen doesn't belong here. I think Sandhagen showed he belonged. He was just a step behind. So again, this is sort of where I'm getting at. And then we're just a fight or two removed from what I think is his best performance, him absolutely dominating Chito Vera in their fight. Now I know Chito Vera, we saw what happened in the title fight with Sean O'Malley, didn't look so good. But that was like a signature performance from Cory that showed that he's at the top of the heat in the weight class. Now, Umar might be as well. Again, we're going to find that out in this fight. But we have evidence of Sandhagen being able to go 5 rounds, being tough to finish, and being one of the most cerebral fighters in the division in terms of his fight IQ. And so that's where I think that Cory has a lot of advantages in this fight. And again, I know this is in the Middle East. Maybe there could be some, swaying of the judges because obviously this is going to be a pro Umar crowd. But I think even with that, Cory will do enough to show that he's the better fighter here and he'll level up. So my official pick is going to be Cory Sandhagen by decision. I know there's a lot of people on the Umar side. I would love to hear your case, why you like Umar in this matchup. Don't just say you're picking him. I want to hear why. I would love to hear your prediction here. We can discuss this in the comments. But based off what we have here now, I have to go Cory Sandhagen because I think if you're picking Umar here, you're really betting a lot on potential. That he is on this level and that he can do this to a fighter like Cory Sandhagen. For me, like I said, looked pretty tired after that last fight, right? And you can't afford to get tired against a guy like Cory Sandhagen, who has some of the best conditioning in the weight class and is very tough to finish. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who are you picking here? Who is your pick? And let me know your prediction in the comments. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.